So I was watching this podcast the other day and I noticed some interesting topics. So I want to be talking about the first topic in this one, which is some girls, at least in this clip, think that society doesn't really need men. So let's go ahead and check out the clip and then tell me what you think.
You also say here, women don't need men. Do you want to elaborate a bit on that?
I don't think that women, like a lot of people think that women need men in like society to maintain society, and I don't think so. I think women would be perfectly fine. I think women would do better off without men.
I agree to that.
How about
Men
this
would
scenario?
do without women.
Well, so let me ask you a couple clarifying.
Really?
Hold on. Let me ask a couple clarifying questions here. What about this scenario? If men just instantly disappeared, or women instantly disappeared, because your position is men would fare worse
Yeah.
than the women. So in that scenario where it's not like, oh, okay, men are going to disappear in like a year, but it's like men disappear tonight and there's no ability for the women to prepare, you think the women fare better?
Okay, real quick before we get to her answer, I want to quickly comment on one of the points that she made. She said that she doesn't think that women really need men to maintain society. Now, maybe she's not too knowledgeable on this part, but most men are in the infrastructure jobs. So if men disappeared tomorrow, all of the infrastructure would stop working and break down, and then society would collapse. Now, another thing she also mentioned was that she thinks women would do better without men than men would without women. So coming back to my point that I just made about infrastructure, I think if the men were left alone, they could still keep it going, but if women were left alone, it would not be too great. So let's quickly see what her answer is, and then we can talk about it.
Definitely.
Why?
Because I think, first of all, I think men's society would it would go stagnant. I think the reason why men have done as much as they've done so far is for women and because of women. And so women, on the other hand, are quite motivated outside of men. Older women who are, divorced and don't plan on getting in relationships anymore still maintain their lifestyle. They still keep their places clean. They still, they still maintain.
Okay, just real quick right here. She mentions that women are more motivated than men. I really have to disagree with this one. I do not think women are more motivated than men. And also, she said that she thinks in a men-only society, it will become stagnant, which means that it's not gonna go anywhere and just be still, which I also have to disagree on if we think about all the jobs that the men are doing right now compared to what the women are doing. Now, I'm not saying any one is more important than the other. Of course, I believe that we need both men and women, but if you think about infrastructure and society-wise, obviously men have the most important jobs to keep it running.
Here, a couple more questions. Who here agrees with her on this? Just curious. Anybody agree? So instantaneously, all men disappear, or instantaneously, all women disappear. Her position is men would fare worse in that scenario than women. Who agrees with her?
There was like a study on that with kids. I know, like, I still think that men and women should.
Do you remember what the study was called by chance?
I don't.
I saw it.
But it was like elementary schoolers, or maybe it was middle schoolers. But they were in like a house for a couple of days, just girls, and then versus guys, and the girls actually did a lot better than just the boys. And that is
what was the age of the children?
I'm pretty sure they were in middle school.
Okay, I don't see how that pertains to this.
Okay, to be honest, I have no clue what kind of study she's talking about here, but I don't really think you can compare these two, because in the one she's talking about, she's mentioning kids, so boys and girls as the kids, and which one does better. But you cannot really compare these to adults and which one would have the most functioning society. So I don't think this one is too relevant, and I don't think this is a good argument from her case. But let's see what they want to talk about.
Does anybody else agree with her? Going once, going...
She agrees.
Who? You agree?
Yeah.
And you agree. Okay. And then you mentioned that women, they keep their houses in good shape, right?
Yeah.
But what happens in this scenario when within 72 hours there's no electricity, there's no food, the water stops working, there's fires that break out, and you don't have male firefighters to put these fires out? So let's assume like a woman loses her residence. What then?
Okay, so I think this is a pretty good point from Brian. We can see that there are actually 2 or maybe 3 other girls that agree with her that a women-only society would be more functional than a man-only society. He points out that she mentioned that women keep their houses in good shape. I don't think this one is really that relevant when you're talking about a functioning society, but let's see what she answers. His question was pretty good. What if electricity, food, and water suddenly stops working? What are they gonna do now? Now, I think I already know her answer. She's gonna say some of the default stuff that they usually like to say, such as, oh, the women can still do this, she can still do that, she can still do that, and stuff like this. But let's just quickly see what she says.
Women know how to collect food. I mean, back when we were hunter-gatherers, the gatherers, being women, would
You think the
provide
average urban woman knows how to collect food in the forest?
Yeah, that's what women used to do.
They used to do, but that was like taught. It's not like you can't just drop somebody who's lived in civilization their entire life into the forest. Like, do you think an
Well, then that would
average?
go for both men and women.
I don't think the average man would do
Well,
that.
no, because even then there's a strength discrepancy. So you take like a man who's grown up in an urban environment and a woman who's grown up in an urban environment. They both have like very little knowledge, just on the basis that men have more strength, generally speaking. The man's already in an advantage.
In what way?
Okay, so she says, in what way? So she doesn't really understand how the men have an advantage when talking about this scenario right here. I don't think it's too important to talk about hunter-gatherers one. I mean, she brought it up, obviously, but I don't think that one is too important when talking about in today's society. So even back then, of course, the men had the advantage when hunting for food. And I agree that there were also gatherers, which were the women who collected berries and stuff from the forest. But of course, the men would have the advantage here. But when talking about the modern day, obviously the men also running the infrastructure jobs would have the advantage if suddenly the other gender disappeared. Now, the women would be totally lost if suddenly all the electricians, plumbers, and all this stuff just disappeared. Even if some of them can do it, there won't be enough to do it. So in this case, I don't think talking about hunter-gatherer one is that important, but she brought it up, so let's just go with it.
Like, what
You
is
don't
that strength
think
going
like
to do for him?
you don't think early human beings relied on like strength and labor to move? Like, okay, I want to chop down a tree. I need to chop up this firewood. I need to move these materials to this position.
I think women could work as a team, like community.
Well, in this scenario, I'm thinking like one-on-one, but even then, 2 women don't possess the same strength as 2 men, or 3 women don't possess the same strength as 3 men.
Right, but I don't think you need to have like some incredible degree of strength. I think that as long as you have a community, you have a tribe, you'd be fine. It doesn't really matter what level of strength there is. I think women have enough strength to survive on their own.
Now, just quickly before we move on to the next part, I just want to quickly commentate on some of the things that she said. Now, she said that she doesn't think strength matters too much, and as long as you just have a community, you'll be completely fine. Now, I agree that you need a community, but I have to disagree with the strength part. I think having strength, especially talking about back in the days, it is really, really important. There's a lot of heavy things that need to be lifted and all of this stuff. So, of course, having strength is an advantage back in the days and even still today.
What was the
Well,
question?
would you be interested in a real social experiment then? Let's say you get 12 of your girlfriends who have even survival skills. Let's say they have survival
I
skills.
don't even think I have 12.
We'll collect 12 men who have survival skills, or we can collect 12 who don't and 12 women, and then give them just a knife apiece and send them off into the wilderness.
I mean, they already do this. Do you watch Naked and Afraid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they all
did-
How
had.
did,
they did
how
do
did the women do?
They actually did do this. So in the,
How did the women do?
Women survived just fine by
No,
themselves.
no, they went over to the men during the exact same social experiment I'm talking about, which didn't include 12-year-olds, okay, when they were fully grown adults. And here's what happened.
They
The
did this
women
in a
were
Mr. Beast
crying,
video.
they were freezing, and they went over and begged the men to help them. And the men finally did. And I see no reason why that would not be the case. And by the way, these were all ages of men, all ages of women, and they failed miserably.
Okay, so what they're talking about here is the TV show. I believe it's called The Island by Bear Grylls. So there was an episode or a few episodes, and it was the man versus woman. So they would have an island, and they would send some men on one side, and they would send the women on the other side. Now, what happened was, after a few days, all of the women were crying, and they didn't really get that far. And all of the men gathered food, they built like shelters and stuff, and they were having a great time. So it ended with the women having to go over to the guys' camp so the guys could help them and give them some of their resources. So this is basically what happened there. And I really suggest you guys watch it. It's really fun, and also it gives a good perspective on what they're talking about here.
Like
I mean,
miserably.
I've seen episodes where the women have hunted and caught like large kills, and I mean, and the women, they do
Oh,
get
sure.
multiple seasons.
I'm not disputing that women can't do in groups and teams. I mean, women are not stupid. I'm sure that they can hunt. But it's the degree to which you're effective at the thing that matters. So when Brian says strength, I don't even think that you realize what he's saying. When you're talking about all the labor jobs which keep society going, that requires a great degree of physical strength, and physical strength is multiplied by multiple men. Oh, you don't think so? You think it's just done by machines? The nice thing about
most of it
machines
is,
that machines take a great amount of physical strength to use. You have a gal here who said she was in maintenance, yeah? She'll tell you, if you want to pick up a 400-pound machine motor, it's really heavy, just so you know. It's not an easy feat. So I don't know where you get the idea that raw strength is not still the staple of human labor, because it still is. We have labor-saving devices, but strength is still very much key in labor.
And this is a perfect point here from Andrew. He mentions that even still today, of course, strength is really important, even though we have machines that can help us, because you still need people to operate these. And some of these machines require a lot of strength for them to work. So I really like this point from Andrew here. I don't know how she's gonna respond to this, but it seems like she's not really gonna change her idea. So I don't know. We'll see how this one goes down.
Sure, but
Also, just you do acknowledge that there's discrepancies in terms of representation when it comes to critical infrastructure jobs, right?
sure, yeah.
So, like, for example, like water, I've got a list here: water, sewage, electricity, gas, fuel refinement, garbage collection, telecommunications, IT infrastructure, road maintenance, truck and delivery drivers, police, fire rescue. These are predominated by men. Do you agree with this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just factually true. So if all men disappear instantly, there's not enough women in these fields to essentially, there's not enough women in the fields where if they just disappeared immediately, it would just be it would be a complete catastrophe. And I mean, you'd have electricity gone within 72 hours, telecommunications gone within 72 hours. Women are not in those fields when like there's a snowstorm or a hurricane and the power's out and it's below freezing in Bozeman, Montana, and they got to fix the power lines, or they got to fix something. They got to check the grid at 1 a.m. and it's snowing and hailing outside. Is it a woman who goes, or it's a man? It's always a man.
Okay, I want you to take a really good look at her face while Brian is explaining these things. She's looking like she doesn't really care what he's saying, and she looks like it's kind of stupid what he's saying. But my point right here with this is that he just listed all of the things that the men are mostly responsible for. Of course, there's still some women in there as well, but it's a majority of men. Now, if all of those things disappeared tomorrow or within a few days, then society would be completely ruined. There is nothing left and everything would crumble. So obviously, I mean, she should already realize that her point has been disproven now, but she's still gonna keep arguing for it. So I'm kind of excited to see what her rebuttal against this is. So let's just keep watching.
Okay, so what happened during World War II when men had to go to war and women had
Women-
to take over the jobs?
Women had, first
Did
of
we
all, not
lose
all
electricity?
women, not all men went to World War II.
Right.
Women stepped up to some degree, but they also had plenty of time to prepare for it. In the scenario I provided, men disappeared instantly. So in that scenario, women would not be able to like, oh, okay, we're just going to take over the water, the sewage, the telecoms. There wouldn't be enough women who have the knowledge base or even necessarily the physical capacity to even do some of these jobs, even if they did have the knowledge base.
I think they would. I mean, we still
How?
have the internet.
But
We still have, women are dominating education.
The internet would be down within 72 hours.
Why?
Do you,
Because of
do you
men.
realize how often like there needs to
Because
be
it
maintenance?
runs, because you seeing the internet runs on electricity, and if there's no more electrical workers,
no female electricians?
The vast, overwhelming amount of them are men. I'm talking vast. I think it's like 98%. In fact, I think 100% of linemen. Last I checked, linemen. Those are the people who put up your power poles. I think they're all men.
Right,
I think it was
maybe-
like decimal point that wasn't men.
Right, maybe you're right. Maybe it would go out. There wouldn't be enough women to sustain, but I think over time women would evolve and we would get it. Like,
Okay, try and listen to what she's saying here. She's saying that over time the women would evolve and they would be able to do it. Obviously, this is a weird point to make. If the power went out, there would be no power at all. The women would not be able to get it back running. Not as she's saying that they would just evolve and then somehow fix it. If it went away and disappeared tomorrow, there would be no electricity and they would not be able to get it back. So her point here is not, I don't know what she's trying to make with her point. I don't think she's gonna change her mind no matter what Andrew or Brian says. I think she's very determined to be right, or at least believe in her own story. So I don't think she's able to change her mind on here, but she's not really making any good arguments, and she can't really rebuke what either Brian or Andrew is saying. But let's continue and see what her saying is.
Well, you have one generation, because without men, you're basically going to go extinct, and unless, of course, you decide that you're going to use frozen male sperm and then only keep the women, but you're going to run out eventually. So then I guess you would have to have men, so that men could then re-inseminate you at some point. And then the second you have men to do that, you have the problem of they're really fucking strong and may decide that you get to go in the cages. So I don't really know. I don't really know like how this is even feasible from the female standpoint. If all men disappeared tomorrow, it seems to me like this would be dire and catastrophic for women. Not exactly sure how it would be for men.
We don't need it anyway.
Okay, just quick point here. She says we don't need it anyway, whatever you're just talking about. I don't know what she means by that. Is she talking about being able to become pregnant like you mentioned, or is she talking about all of the male dominated jobs? Because in either case, she definitely needs both of them if society will thrive. Now, just quickly, I don't think Andrew's point with talking about pregnancy here is that important, because obviously if it's a male only, there's also not gonna be any more kids. So in that scenario, I don't think we can use that one. But definitely when talking about all the jobs, of course, I don't know what her point is and what she's trying to make here, but let's see what the others answer.
The stuff you're talking about.
right. I mean, we've survived as societies
Pro.
without electricity.
You do realize
Your body was conditioned for this. So you're talking about conditions. So if you live in a world, like if you go to the third world, for instance, have you ever seen what's called the third world squat? That now, if you just took that normal squat sitting position that almost everybody sits in the third world all day long, your calves would be killing you within about 20 minutes, and you'd have to get back up because most people don't sit like this, right? We sit on chairs, which is actually bad for our back. They're actually conditioned for this movement because they were raised in an environment for the movement. The soles of their feet are conditioned to not have shoes. They were raised in an environment for that. Everything about them is conditioned for the environment that they're in. That is not the case anymore. You're not conditioned to go out in the forest and find fucking berries, okay? Modern women are not conditioned to do that.
Neither are modern men. Modern men mostly would not have these survival skills either.
Modern men keep up forestry. Modern men keep up physical conditioning for outdoor jobs and outdoor work and outdoor foraging and hunting and things like that. Women do not.
And there are women who do these jobs too.
Very few.
Okay, so I think the point that she's trying to make is that since there are some women in these fields, then of course women can do it as well. Now, no one is saying that no women can do these jobs, but the point here that Andrew is trying to make is that it's basically only men doing these. Now, there are a few women doing them, and that's great, but the majority, the heavy majority, are of course men. So if for some reason all the men disappeared, now that would be catastrophic for the women. Now, she's trying to keep saying like, oh, but there's also women doing it and all this stuff. And yeah, of course that's true, but it doesn't really matter when it's such a big gap between the men and women doing these jobs. So yeah, I don't think she has a good argument here. I think she's just trying to be stubborn and she wants to be right.
So I live in Bozeman, Montana, and I can tell you that if men disappeared, some people will say, we don't need these amenities to survive. There's a large surplus of the population that lives in a climate where if these things disappear, millions and millions of people would just die. So like Brian said, if they had time to prepare, if females have time to prepare, they can obviously make that happen. But I think to say that if men just disappeared, women would be fine.
We're already prepared, though. Like, we already have education. We already have food in grocery stores.
Okay, I don't think she's gonna change her mind. I think we're gonna end it on this one. Just quickly to talk about what you mentioned, that we already had food and grocery stores and stuff. I don't think she realizes that if all the men disappeared, then most of that food from the grocery stores will never ever come to the grocery store again, since men are the drivers delivering to the grocery stores, and also it's mostly men making all of the food, like the farmers and stuff, right? So I don't think she really understands that if the men disappeared, of course there will still be grocery stores, but in a few days or in a week or something, all of the food would be gone and it would be hoarded by a group of people. So her point here does not really make sense. She also says that they have education now and stuff. Okay, but that's not really gonna matter if society and everything is crumbling within a few days. So she's not going to change her mind on this one, guys. I think we're going to end it here. I'm going to leave a link in the description to the full debate if you want to watch it. And I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys.